I do not understand. I do not understand how you make that blunder. I genuinely don't get it. And Wes has just made like an unfathomable blunder. Firstly, I don't understand how it happened. I kind of couldn't believe it when I first saw it.
Recently, Alex O'Connor appeared on Julian Dory's podcast to discuss a wide range of topics, including biblical scholarship and Christian apologetics. During the conversation, Alex expressed genuine disbelief at a major blunder made by Wes Huff, a Christian apologist and expert in paratextual features of New Testament manuscripts. Wes had argued that ancient manuscripts like Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus contain a unique scribal feature, a deliberate blank space after Mark 16:8, which in his view suggests that the scribes were aware of additional material, such as the so-called long ending of Mark. But as Alex points out, this claim falls apart under even basic scrutiny, because similar gaps appear at the end of every gospel in those same manuscripts.
This kind of stuff. Like, this is squarely within his expertise,
Yes.
paratextual features of New Testament documents. And yet he's managed to make a genuinely, to me, unfathomable blunder. I do not understand how you can make a video where you say that there's a gap at the end of Mark's Gospel in Codex Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, and that's something we don't see in any of the other Gospels. If you have copies of those codexes and you can look and see that there are gaps at the end of every single one of them, I do not understand how you make that blunder. I genuinely don't get it.
Alex says he doesn't get it. Do you get why Wes made this blunder? In this next part, Alex is responding to something especially baffling. Wes Huff includes Codex Alexandrinus in his visual presentation. That manuscript contains the long ending of Mark, but Wes draws a yellow box after the long ending, implying that it's a blank space left for the missing verses, just like in manuscripts that end at verse 8. As Alex points out, this completely undercuts Wes's point. Watch his reaction as he tries to make sense of it.
People just make mistakes all the time. I've probably made about 15 mistakes during this video. I've said the wrong date, I've said the wrong thing, I've quoted the wrong thing, I've mispronounced Alexandrinus or Alexandrinus. Fine, yeah, you can do that. You can make mistakes like that. But this, firstly, I don't understand how it happened. I just don't get how you do this, especially if you're making a graphic. There's a yellow box. Maybe he doesn't make his own graphics, but like there is a yellow box. There is a yellow box highlighting a gap after the long ending of Mark. I'm hoping that people listening are following what I'm saying here and understand that this is like this is like I kind of couldn't believe it when I first saw it.
Hear that? Alex keeps saying it. I don't understand. I genuinely don't get it. And he's right to be baffled, because on the surface, these mistakes are unbelievable, especially coming from someone with Wes's credentials. But here's the thing. Alex doesn't know why it happened. I do. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how someone like Wes could make these kinds of errors without lying. The answer isn't just in the facts, it's in the psychology, the pressure, and the role he's trying to play. But before that, I need to tell you about one more error that Wes made. After that podcast appearance with Julian Dory, Wes Huff made another video, this time to clarify his view on the ending of Mark. He explicitly says he doesn't believe the long ending is original, and he affirms the scholarly consensus. So far, so good. But then he goes on suggesting that the blank column at the end of Mark in Codex Vaticanus could accommodate the long ending if it were written with average letter size and spacing, word count per line, and the usual title inscription. In other words, he implies that the gap was intentionally left, just large enough for the longer ending to be added later, by someone with access to more data. Let's take a look at exactly what he says.
If we account for the average space between the letters, the average amount of words per column, and the approximate letter size for the scribe who wrote the Gospel of Mark, and we factor all that in and fill in the gap with a reconstructed text, 16:9-20, and the standard title inscription for the Gospel according to Mark fits exactly in the space left at the end of Mark in Codex Vaticanus. I think that's very important to take note of. For me personally, At minimum, I believe this points to the scribes of Vaticanus's New Testament, knowing about a further reading, they themselves not believing that that reading was original, but nonetheless doing their due diligence in leaving the appropriate amount of space for a potential later scribe who maybe had more available data to point to the text's authenticity to write it in.
That sounds neat, precise, scholarly, but it's misleading. The visual Wes uses in his video showing how the long ending of Mark supposedly fits perfectly into the blank column of Codex Vaticanus looks almost identical to an illustration made by James Snap Jr. But here's the issue. Snap's graphic doesn't prove that the long ending perfectly fits into the Vaticanus gap. It only shows that if you compress the spacing and format everything just right, you could theoretically squeeze it into that space. So no, it doesn't fit exactly, not under normal scribal conditions. Wes presents this as if average spacing makes the long ending fit cleanly, suggesting that the scribe may have intentionally left just the right amount of room. But Snap, even while arguing for the long ending being original, acknowledges that a fit requires artificial compression, not average spacing, not standard formatting. He could have left this part out to sell his position that the long ending was authentic, but out of scholarly integrity, he didn't. So ironically, Wes borrowed a visual from someone sympathetic to the conservative view of the text and still managed to misrepresent it. Again, if Alex knew about this, he probably would have said, I don't know how he could make this blunder. And he would be justified to pose that question. How does something like this happen? How does a trained scholar with expertise in the very subject he's talking about make a mistake this obvious? Not once, but repeatedly. Well, the answer isn't that Wes is being deceptive. It's that multiple psychological and rhetorical forces are at play, all of which help explain how someone can go wrong without even realizing it. Let's break it down. Number 1. Intellectual overconfidence. Wes specializes in paratextual features, things like layout, scribal spacing, and marginal markings. That's his niche. But ironically, that familiarity may have made him sloppy. Because when you are used to seeing patterns across manuscripts, it's easy to assume you are right, even when you are not. That's likely how he misidentified Codex Alexandrinus as ending at verse 8, when it actually contains the long ending. He probably assumed it was like the others and didn't bother to double-check before making the graphic. Number 2. The urge to sound convincing. Wes uses paleographic language, word count, line spacing, etc. to make his case sound scholarly and precise, but we saw that those numbers don't actually support what he says. For example, he claims the long ending would fit exactly into the blank column of Codex Vaticanus using average spacing, but that's just not true. The very graphic he shows, likely from James Snap Jr., was made using compressed formatting, not average scribal spacing, and Snap himself acknowledges that with normal spacing, the long ending would not fit. So why didn't Wes mention that? This wasn't just a minor oversight. That caveat, the one Snap clearly explains, is crucial to understanding the image. Without it, the graphic becomes misleading. But here's the catch. That caveat undermines the rhetorical power of the image. It introduces doubt, nuance, complexity. And when you are making a persuasive video, especially to defend the idea that scribes knew about the long ending, nuance is your enemy. So instead, Wes cherry-picks the graphic, skips the footnote, and confidently frames the image as if it shows scribal foresight. Was it a deliberate omission? Probably not. But it's the kind of shortcut you take when your priority is to sound confident and persuasive, not to pause and ask whether the details actually back you up. Number 3. Content creation pressure. Let's not ignore the environment he's working in. Today's internet rewards quick takes, strong opinions, and content that looks polished, even when the scholarship underneath is shaky. Wes is a content creator as much as a scholar. When you are making shorts and videos, there's no time for nuance or cautious wording. There's pressure to be confident, decisive, and visually persuasive. That's how mistakes get polished, because the video needs to go out now, and verifying sources slows things down. Number 4. Scholar versus apologist, identity conflict. Wes openly says he doesn't believe the long ending of Mark is original. He agrees with the scholarly consensus, but he also identifies as a Christian apologist, and most of his audience are evangelicals who want to believe the Bible is reliable, consistent, and complete. So even when he rejects the passage as scripture, he softens the blow by saying things like, the scribes were aware of additional material. They left space just in case someone needed to restore it later. It's a way of saying, yes, it's a later addition, but maybe it was still kind of special. That's not objective scholarship, that's rhetorical damage control. Number 5. Cognitive dissonance. Let's be honest, it's uncomfortable to admit that a major part of the Bible, including resurrection appearances in Mark, may have been added later. Wes probably feels that tension himself. So even if he believes the long ending isn't original, he's still drawn to any evidence that makes it seem early, widely known, or treated with reverence. That's why he highlights the Vaticanus gap. That's why he overemphasizes scribal awareness. It's not lying, it's reconciling faith with fact by stretching the fact. Number 6. Motivated reasoning. And at the root of it all is this. Wes has a conclusion he wants to preserve. The Bible is trustworthy. Not just generally trustworthy, but trustworthy in a way that can survive scrutiny, even when problems like the ending of Mark surface. So when the manuscript evidence threatens part of that belief, the goal subtly shifts. The goal is no longer to let the evidence speak for itself. The goal becomes to contain the damage. He doesn't need to prove the long ending is original. He just needs to show that it's not devastating, that maybe it was known, maybe respected, maybe preserved imperfectly, but intentionally. And once that goal is set, every decision about what to highlight, what to soften, what to leave out becomes tilted toward that outcome. The problem isn't deliberate dishonesty. The problem is that he's filtering the evidence through a commitment he's too invested to question. That's why he overstates weak points. That's why he selectively frames ambiguities. Because the goal isn't clarity, it's reassurance. Reassurance for himself. Reassurance for his audience. Reassurance that even when the evidence gets messy, the narrative remains intact. But real scholarship, real intellectual honesty doesn't start by deciding what story needs to be protected. It starts by letting the evidence tell its own story, even if that story is harder, messier, and less comfortable than we wish. So when Alex O'Connor says, I genuinely don't understand how Wes could make mistakes like this, the answer is, now you do. You understand what is going on. It's not that Wes set out to deceive anyone. It's that the urge to sound convincing, the pressure of content creation, the tension between faith and evidence, all stacked together to create the perfect storm. But here's the important part. You don't need to wait for skeptics like Alex to spot these errors. You can see them for yourself if you are willing to slow down, ask the hard questions, and not settle for easy answers. Because the real problem isn't just one mistaken argument, it's what happens when people in positions of trust, especially Christian apologists, allow their desire to defend the faith to outrun their duty to be accurate about it. In the end, this isn't just about Wes Huff, it's about being mindful, about learning to recognize the warning signs, so that your confidence in what's true isn't based on persuasive words, but on careful, honest thinking. And once you understand that, you won't just be protected from mistakes like this. You'll be practicing the kind of intellectual integrity that real faith and real scholarship should demand. So what do you think? Did I miss any other reasons why Wes might have made these mistakes? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.